isn't part of the sermon, but I just so much appreciate that people like Mike, the way they play, make every Sunday feel like Easter Sunday. You know, sometimes, especially at 10 o'clock, there's nobody here. And yet that doesn't make any difference. He just kind of lifts us up. So, but anyway, this morning, I really needed to see the sunrise. I really wanted to know and believe that this morning the sun is rising over Calvin Singletary, who it looks like he's near death at Silver Cross Hospital. The problem is, literally, when Peggy and I went there late Friday night, he wanted us to plan his funeral. And then yesterday, I go there thinking he's almost gone, and he's changing his credit card. So I don't know about Calvin, but whatever it is, Calvin is Calvin. And he will die like he lived. He'll give it his best. And I wanted to know that the sun was rising over a family I'll meet later today. I'm doing their funeral, but it's the father's 48-year-old daughter took her own life. And he's pretty much feels destroyed. And I'm going to walk in there. I just want to make sure the sun rises over his and his family. I want to make sure the sun rises over each one of you this week, that wherever your journey takes you, this afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I hope somehow, some way, you will know that God is with you, and that wherever your journey leads you, that it's important. I want to make sure that same sunrise I saw over LaGrange Road this morning is in Afghanistan and Iraq, Roseland and Inglewood, that somehow, some way, the sunrise can bring us together and remind us that what brings us together is more important than what tears us apart. You know, there's so many things that divide us today. We probably talk about it too much. I mean, even in some of our families, we have people that don't talk to each other, and I know that hurts you. Sometimes, you know, I see it whenever I do a wedding for somebody, or sometimes when I do a funeral, sometimes the goodness comes out, but also sometimes the divisions come out. And you can see where that tension, and sometimes I just want to bring it all together and make sure it's okay. And even in our great country, you know, I just love America. That's why I like to give stuff out. But even in our country, we forget the words on the Statue of Liberty. We forget the spirit of the goodness that brings us together, because America is a spirit, it's a way of life. And even in our own great state, the land of Lincoln, think of all the divisions. We have so much to offer. We have so many people to take care of, and we got to do that. Yes, then I see the sunrise, and I look into Calvin's eyes, and I look into an aging father who's coping with his daughter's death. And I realize anew that our calling, you in your own way and me in my own way, our calling is to bring people together. We can't force it, but somehow, some way, we need to live celebrating the diversity and the goodness of the human spirit. I've been thinking a lot about the church lately, because I wonder, who are we and why are we, especially at 10 o'clock. I could take my pickup truck at 10 o'clock and drive it right through here. I wouldn't touch anybody. But you know, I think our church is a lot of things. You know, Tuesday is our first Fun Fest. We've been doing Fun Fest for 30 years. And for the past 30 years, these developmentally disabled adults, they come by the van full and they just sit on our property, and we share and we eat and we just talk, and they live different lives than we do. You know, the ordinary things that I take for granted every day, sometimes it's like running a marathon for them. And yet somehow, some way, when they come on our property, something changes. We celebrate our uniqueness instead of let it divide us. And the disabilities that somehow define them every day of the week, they don't define them here, because here they're family. And maybe that's the magic of 13350 South LaGrange Road, that somehow, some way, on this property, in this building, our differences can kind of melt, and we come together and enjoy each other. I had a wedding yesterday. You know, every wedding is unique. And I remember when Chuck and Robert came in to talk about their wedding, they were nervous. And they said, well, you know, Don, we're not a traditional couple, and we want so much for our family and friends to celebrate us and to be in a place where they can really enjoy it. And I said, Chuck, I've known you forever. What do you think? And I said, your mom and your stepdad are members of the church. By the way, they could come a little more often, Chuck, if you might mention that to them. But I said, isn't life ironic? It's in the summer on a Sunday morning. There's not many people here. And then yesterday I have a funeral and a wedding for people who don't belong here, and the place is packed on a Saturday. But that's because of the open door. That's because of you. That's because of the spirit you cultivate. And so the church is full for Rob's and Chuck's wedding. And it's time for communion. And communion is such an awkward time because I come down here and I say, I know we come here from different traditions and different churches. And I said, but we're coming together. Please know that everybody is welcome. And you could just see people wondering, am I going to go to purgatory for taking communion? Is it going to be okay? And finally I said, just get up and take it. And they did. I didn't learn to talk that way in seminary. But you have empowered me to be your spokesperson for the openness and the goodness of the human spirit. And then at the end, when I presented them as a married couple, they turned around and there was some applause. There always applause, sometimes polite applause. They turned around and the place absolutely went ballistic. It was spirit-filled. They applauded, they stood, they walked out, they continued to applaud because there was a celebration of the human spirit inside this room. You see, in this very room, which is one of my favorite songs, would you mind singing it today before that? In this very room, our differences do not divide us. In fact, our differences are the glue that hold us together. Our differences don't plant seeds of anger and division. Our differences are the soil out of which God's grace speaks to us and can even change us, even old guys like me. I was talking to one of you the other day, won't mention your name, and we were talking about life and how things in the world have changed. And you said to me, Don, sometimes I feel like I don't even fit in anymore. I said, sometimes even in my friends and family, I feel kind of like a dinosaur. And I told him, and we were sharing a glass of beer together. I said, if being a dinosaur means that you would rather talk on the phone than text somebody, then be a dinosaur. I said, if being a dinosaur means that you get the chills every time you see the American flag, then don't stop being a dinosaur. If being a dinosaur means you miss those Sunday afternoon pot roast dinners with your grandma and grandpa and the whole family sitting around the table, then be a dinosaur. And if being a dinosaur means that the world is changing a little faster than you would like, and at your age you're willing to step back and listen, and being open to those who are different than you, then continue to be a dinosaur. Yesterday our church was full of people who on paper don't belong. And thanks to you, for at least a day, they did belong. And that's the miracle. Amen. If you're able to, please rise for the creed. It's on page 105.